The last meal that changed everything. It was just another cold evening in downtown Chicago when Leo Turner, a 62-year-old homeless Army veteran, gave away his only meal to a stranger. A simple act of kindness, done without expectation, but one that would change the course of his life forever. Leo had been living on the streets for nearly a decade. His usual spot was near St. Vincent's Shelter, a place where he could sometimes get a hot meal and rest for the night when the beds weren't full. Unlike many others in his situation, Leo never begged. He lived by the values the military had instilled in him: integrity, discipline, and a willingness to help others even when he had nothing himself. Once upon a time, Leo had been a decorated soldier. He had served 2 tours in Iraq, earning commendations for his bravery under fire. But like many veterans, the transition back to civilian life had not been easy. PTSD haunted him, and a series of misfortunes: losing his job, struggling with medical bills, and the untimely passing of his wife had left him with nothing. The bureaucracy of reinstating his benefits was a nightmare he had neither the strength nor patience to fight through. And so, one hardship after another, he found himself here, on the streets, surviving day by day. The meeting that changed everything. That particular evening, Leo was sitting on his usual bench, trying to warm his hands with his breath, when he noticed a man in an expensive suit standing beside a broken-down BMW. The man looked frustrated, staring at his dead phone and muttering under his breath. Leo had seen all kinds of people pass through this part of town: businessmen, tourists, and lost strangers. But something about this man's helplessness struck him. Maybe it was the way he kicked the tire in frustration, or maybe it was just instinct. Either way, Leo stood up and approached. "Need some help?" he asked, his voice calm and steady. The man turned sharply, taking a step back as if expecting trouble. Then he hesitated, looking at Leo more closely. Despite his worn clothes, Leo still stood like a soldier, shoulders squared, posture straight, eyes steady. "My car won't start," the man said, exhaling heavily. "And my phone's dead. I have an important meeting in 20 minutes. Leo glanced at the car and then at the skyline. "You're about a mile from the business district. I know a shortcut." The man hesitated, glancing at his shoes, which were already getting splashed with dirty slush from passing cars. Leo saw the hesitation and added, "Or you can wait for a tow. But that'll take at least an hour." The man nodded. "All right, let's go." As they started walking, Leo noticed the man's stomach growling. He had been in enough tough situations to recognize hunger when he saw it. Without thinking twice, he reached into his worn backpack and pulled out a sandwich, his only meal for the night, wrapped in a napkin he had saved from the shelter. "Here," he said, handing it over. "You won't think straight on an empty stomach." The man hesitated. "Is this your only food?" Leo shrugged. "I was always taught to share resources. No soldier eats alone if he can help it." The man took the sandwich, visibly moved. "What's your name?" he asked as he took a careful bite. "Leo Turner," he replied. "U.S. Army. Retired." The man swallowed, his expression shifting. "I'm Henry Wallace," he said, "CEO of Wallace Industries." Leo didn't react. He had met all kinds of people in his life. A CEO was just another person at the end of the day. As they reached the business district, Henry turned to him. "Thank you, Leo. I won't forget this." Leo just nodded, watching the man disappear into one of the gleaming skyscrapers. He didn't think much of it. After all, the world of the wealthy and powerful rarely intersected with his own. A week later, Leo continued his routine, helping out at the shelter, keeping his small sleeping spot clean, and looking out for other homeless veterans. But something felt different. The people in the neighborhood started whispering. Then, one afternoon, the quiet murmur turned into outright shock when a line of sleek black SUVs rolled up to St. Vincent's Shelter. The doors opened and a group of people stepped out. Several men in expensive suits, a few military officers, and standing in the middle of them all, Henry Wallace. Henry walked straight up to Leo, who instinctively straightened his posture, old habits kicking in. "Leo," Henry said, his voice filled with gratitude, "I looked into your story. I read everything I could find about you. You served with distinction, earned a Bronze Star, and saved lives. And yet, here you are, struggling to survive. That's unacceptable. Leo's throat tightened, but he said nothing. Henry continued, I spoke with the VA, with the city, with my legal team. We've got your pension reinstated, along with your back pay. That's just the beginning. Leo felt his knees weaken. It had been years since he'd felt anything but exhaustion and struggle. We're launching the Wallace Veterans Initiative, Henry went on. Housing, medical care, job training. And we need someone who understands what it means to serve. Someone who knows what veterans really need. Leo blinked. You're saying? Henry smiled. I'm saying I want you to run it. The shelter erupted in murmurs. Other veterans stepped forward, disbelief in their eyes. For the first time in years, Leo felt something he thought he had lost. Purpose. A new beginning. Over the next few months, the Wallace Veterans Initiative transformed Chicago's veteran community. Homeless veterans found stable housing. Job programs were implemented. Healthcare became accessible. Leo moved into a small apartment near the center. His new office had a simple plaque on the wall. No soldier eats alone. Henry visited often, and their friendship deepened. One day, over coffee, Henry admitted something. That day, when my car broke down, I thought I was just meeting a homeless man. Turns out, I was meeting someone who would change my life. Leo chuckled. Funny. I was just thinking the same thing. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness lead to the biggest changes. And for Leo Turner, one simple sandwich had rewritten his entire future.